proud that NTC now is well housed in our own secretariat building that is at Plantation Sophia. Presently, we have 6 staffs, and I think that we are the machinery of leadership in terms of getting things done. The advising committee there to advise village and their leadership.
Mm-hmm. And how has that process been? What has been the response of the leaders, the indigenous leaders?
So the NTC, it's that link between communities and government agencies, ministries, and other organizations. So we have always informed leaders that they can able to contact us direct, and we can assist and support them if there's an issue that need to be addressed. Let us just take, for instance, if there's a health issue, right, and they are having difficulty in getting to the Ministry of Health, they can contact the NTC, and then we will be able to liaison with the Minister of Health so that we can get that concern addressed.
Okay, great. What are you most looking forward to today?
So I'm looking forward today it's the opening, it's a grand opening. We anticipate we'll have His Excellency the President and all the cabinet members, other government agency, the diplomatic corps, and so many other special invitees will be there. But we're looking forward for the establishment of where Toshaos will be selecting the regional reps, and later on this afternoon we'll be establishing the new NTC executive body, and that is something that I'm looking forward for.
All right. Well, congratulations on your tenure, and continue to serve the indigenous communities. And we thank you for stopping by and talking with us this morning.
You're welcome.
All right. So that was Mr. Derek John, the chairman of the National Toshaos Council. Stay with us. We will have, as Travis would have mentioned, some other personnel to talk with, including Minister of Amerindian Affairs, the Honorable 𝐸𝐸, and the vice chairman as well of the NTC, who has actually just joined us. The secretary, of the NTC, who has joined us, Shane Cornelius. How are you this morning? Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm fine. Very excited today.
Today, what are you most excited about?
Just the fact that this is an opportunity for us leaders throughout the country to meet with the president and meet with the entire cabinet for the week, and to share knowledge amongst our indigenous members. Just the coming together of leaders, shoulder to shoulder, to share our vision for our villages throughout the country.
Right. So the current administration has invested billions of dollars into the indigenous communities. As secretary of the NTC, what do you think would have been the highlight of this tenure?
Well, our tenure was short-lived in the sense that we were elected 1 year late due to COVID. So we are only here for 2 years as executive members of the NTC, and now we have elections. So over the past 2 years, we would have developed a good working relationship with the government. Obviously, there will be challenges, but how we work around the challenges is what really defines this current executive. So one of the highlights would be the NTC supporting Guyana's low carbon development strategy and actually seeing direct benefits to the villages throughout the country.
Correct. And what would you say would be one of the direct benefits that you've seen with the LCDS?
Well, villages are transforming. We have a lot of infrastructure. We have a lot of livelihood projects. Villages are generating their own income, creating employment. So villages are more, I would say, more better off in terms of moving up, moving like how the country is moving at a fast pace. Mm-hmm. So our villages right now are moving fast as well.
Right, and I suppose in all areas.
Yes, in all areas.
Yeah, because $2.7 billion would have been earned from the LCDS.
So 2.7, if I'm correct, 2.7 is what is allocated this year. Actually,
correct.
Last year it was 4.7 billion. So this year would be an additional 2.7 billion.
Right, and those would have gone into all areas of indigenous people's development.
Yeah, those 4.7 from last budget, they would have already disbursed to villages, and they would have benefited over 800 projects being developed throughout the country. And now with the conference on, the second disbursement would begin to roll out, the 2.7 that you just talked about, that would start rolling out to villages. And all they need to do is bring an approved village plan along with the minutes and the attendance sheet showing that the village would have given them, the leader, the authority to to put forward these ideas.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so very much for talking with us. That would have been Mr. Shane Cornelius, the Secretary of the NTC. And again, congratulations on your tenure. And I'm sure you will continue to work in Indigenous people's development.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to continue representing our peoples always.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a good conference as well. Oh. Yeah. So where do I walk when I'm getting?
All right, so we had some good conversations thus far, kind of understanding where Amerindian Development is in the country and how much more is in store. I think it is important to mention as well, as I reflect on the COVID-19 pandemic and the devastating effects that it had, especially on the education sector. We would have seen since the government assumed office there was lots of money being allocated towards the furthering and enhancing of our education sector. And so that we were able to witness transformation not only in the aesthetics of the community or villages, but in terms of the education. We have seen tremendous input and successes as well from hinterland communities of children being outstanding in the CSEC examinations, or even as well in those common entrance, as you would say, but the National Grade 6 assessment, so being placed at higher schools and so forth. There's lots of speakers on today's program. Of course, it comes with some cultural flair to it.
Oh, yes.
So that is something our listeners and viewers can look forward to this morning.
Absolutely, and I like that it's even though it's a serious event, even though it's an event where issues are discussed, and I'm sure passionately so.
Yeah.
It's also an event to showcase the Indigenous culture, and as you know, the Indigenous culture has been present and continues to be present and to be showcased on a national level. And I think because of that integration, we now have seen the acceptance. I think initially there would have been an initial what is the word I'm looking for? Persons have not been as open, as receptive, but I think now that the platform has, or platforms would have been given to showcase Indigenous culture, I think people are a lot more receptive and a lot more understanding, because of course with understanding comes knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So it really enables the process. I'm very happy that today's program will certainly incorporate that, and of course we're looking forward to Amerindian Heritage Month as well in the new month, which will further facilitate the cultural diversity of the Indigenous peoples.
Yeah, definitely. We did witness that launch of the Heritage Month, and I'm happy to say that I'm pleased with all the activities, and one good thing about it is that it doesn't feel like anything is being celebrated in Georgetown only. It is widespread across the country, so persons from all walks of life, all parts of society can be able to witness and really intermingle and entwine with the Indigenous culture. So, today some of the key ticket items as well, I know that will be discussed, is those carbon credits, because it has really transformed the way that we see our forests and the way that we see it working for us and being able to pay us. So there were a number of interventions there to ensure that the Guyana's forest remains in its pristine state so that we can benefit from carbon credits. That was a collaboration there from Hess Corporation, who would have allocated some monies there in terms of carbon credits. We would have seen that being funneled to Indigenous development, and at a community level they were allowed to make the decisions of how they want the money to benefit them. So persons might have enhanced farming, so some persons might have expanded in terms of transportation, or some might have further necessitated the need for the furtherance of Indigenous languages and culture and strengthening of those, because with the advent of technology, that is a disadvantage of some sort, where persons might not necessarily want to cling to that Indigenous culture. So there are programs to revitalize it based with the carbon credits allocation. So that is something very spectacular that has been happening, and I know that the efforts will be continued, and we will see further transformation in those communities.
Absolutely, and the beauty about development is that it is felt at the ground level.
Yeah.
I think when persons feel included in the process, when persons are benefiting from the process as well, it makes it worth the while. And you heard from the secretary as well as the chairman of the NTC how the NTC as a body would have been able to influence that or facilitate that process as well. And as a result, the communities across Guyana. And when you think of indigenous development, I think people sometimes think of it in terms of the context of the coast. The coast is relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
When you think about indigenous, for example, land titling issues, those are issues that have been going on for years, and it's really, really a passionate issue, an issue that a lot of persons feel very strongly about, and a lot of persons would have been advancing as well. So for the government to actually quickly facilitate that process of titling. Even today, during the ceremony today, we will see land titles being presented. And those things are important. When you think of transportation in indigenous communities, you're thinking not only, I think a lot of persons think $9 billion is a lot of money. But in the context of indigenous development, when you think of access from one community to the other, when you think of not only transportation, but general communication, now we have internet hubs, ICT hubs that are available, which really facilitate not only communication in terms of day-to-day business-to-business communication, but in terms of education, in terms of health. We have telemedicine right now in the indigenous communities. Those things are real issues, and they cost a lot of money, and they cost doubly when you think of the context of indigenous communities. So the fact that a lot of change is being done and persons are actually feeling and experiencing that change, that tells you something. That means a lot. And I think occasions, settings like these, where you're able to have that conversation with the highest level of government.
Yeah.
So, like today, the NTC, that is a process of good governance, because development really is facilitated when you have good governance.
Yeah.
So I think these sorts of situations, these sorts of settings, these sort of functions, occasions, really facilitate and showcases development in its real sense, because people are able to tell stories, and stories matter.
Yeah, stories matter indeed. I'm happy you mentioned and referenced there the ICT hubs that are being set up still across Guyana, and then we can also talk about the solar electrification program, which benefits some hinterland communities. So relying on that solar energy, which is clean energy, which is where Guyana is heading in terms of renewable energy, it really factors into the LCDS 2030 agenda. Of course, the low carbon development strategy is not something that we just found out about yesterday. This has been long ongoing under the astute leadership of then President Dr. 𝐷𝐷𝐷, which it was rolled out. So we can see a strengthened LCDS right now, heading on catering for 2030 and the development that we want to see in 2030 unfolding, and so that we are able to, benefit holistically. Of course, seeing there on the screen and those on radio that might be listening, we are now witnessing the arrival here of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, as he is being greeted and welcomed to the venue here at the Arthur Chung Conference Center.
Absolutely, and it's always a joy to see His Excellency the President interact with the citizenry of Guyana, because I think his personality shines, and the fact that he can be here again to listen to the leaders of the various, over 200 as a matter of fact, over 200 Toshaos present here today, and formulate tangible solutions. And of course, he's known to be very proactive. So I think one of the things persons are really looking forward to is just action. It's one thing to come to these events and to talk and to discuss and to document, but it's another thing to actually see results. And I think that's one of the comfort levels, if you like, the settings or areas where persons are really passionate about, to see not only come to well, we come here to talk and to really express our concerns and to celebrate our successes, but also to see action in those challenges or those challenging areas, especially when it comes to Indigenous people's development.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is noteworthy as well in terms of the resilience of Indigenous people continuing to overcome anything that is thrown their way and always being able to be proactive in whatever is being undertaken. I know that will be best exemplified in the Indigenous Heritage Month that will be celebrated in just a few days. But, you know, outside of that, I think there is a lot to really think about when we see Indigenous people's development in our country. It's literally everywhere.
Yes.
And you can see it widespread. And I like that you mentioned earlier about us having this deeper appreciation for the culture. And when you mentioned there are 200 Toshaos, it's quite a lot. And there are so many Indigenous villages and communities across our country, and each unique to its own, whether it be through the culture, whether it be through the way that people are, you know, being neighbors or the camaraderie that they share. I think it would be really good for us to spotlight all of our Indigenous villages and see how we can learn more, because there's so much that is untaught. I know I disclosed to you earlier that I haven't seen much of the hinterland, if not none at all. So it would be a good point for us to really use this platform to learn more about what is happening right in our shores.
Absolutely, and I think that's why events such as the celebration of Amerindian Heritage Month is so crucial, because it's not just an event for us to come together. Again, you know, oftentimes people say, oh, this is just a party session, but it's really an opportunity to educate the mainstream population. It's an opportunity to have integration into the mainstream, because I am a product of the Hinterland Scholarship Program, so I can testify as to the impact, again, of these interventions that are done at the national level to have people from the hinterland come out into the coast, not only bring your culture, but also be educated, be having the opportunity to attend high school just like everyone else, to know that you have the same potential like everyone else, to know that you can really exceed expectations as well. So these opportunities or these discussions here filter down into, you know, the communities, and when they filter down, that's when we see the impact. And I think it's just really, really significant to have these opportunities where we can have discussions, where we can have real interventions, and we can see the impact at the ground level as well. Governance is one of the areas which is so absolutely crucial for development, and having the establishment of the NTC, which is really the overarching body looking after the interests of Indigenous people. That is absolutely important. When you think of health, like I said, in the hinterland, it's vast geographically. Telemedicine is just a critical no-brainer, really, because it's so challenging to even though the administration would have set up hospitals and health centers and invested in the education of our nurses and our doctors. Now we have a lot more Indigenous or persons of Indigenous descent who are doctors and nurses. Those are critical interventions. And the fact that you're investing in those areas really shows out in the ultimate product, what is available to the community. So this is really a very, very important day, not only in the history of Guyana, but in the history of the lives of the people who will matter ultimately.
Deborah, you know, earlier you were referencing, you know, that these communities are different in terms of the way that we see transportation. So it goes beyond just your usual roads and cars. We're talking ATVs. We're talking some of these communities are riverine communities. So the access is different. So at this time, we want to head over to the dome of the Artichon Conference Center as the program gets underway. So please stay tuned right here all across our NCN networks and social media as we continue to provide you updates.
Please remain standing as 𝐍𝐸𝐲𝐫𝐢𝐬 𝐍𝐼𝐬 will now lead us in prayer in the YY language.
Let's bow our heads. Wakaya no kirwana rasha morokes. Afan ka amnaya. Amna esenta ho ahnoro on mumayo. Amna china foko esenta to focus. Afero ka on ka mochibari. Amna ya mumu. China foko amna yum tahotato. China kayari tomo como. Amna ya nikatumyat on kam. Afero ke umias on kam awemya kam. Amna ya krono macho ke safa. Tairo ke akrono mak noro kayari tomo como. Noro tan on mu mayawnoko. Kayari tomo como president, ministers. Noro ukes. Royan me amna krono mak. Amna ikoron hiko kichi tenye hiko moashi on mu mayay. Ukesaw yafa. Amora siya eskotan amna on rakataw. Amna akrono macho foko. Num tahawas. Ukesaw yafa. Afa. Amumur menyefe ni ona kayari tom. Ta royan me noro makshanas noro kayari tomon ukesaw yafa. Ta amnanas ishaw yakan me maku. Kayari tomo me ukesaw yafa. Ta awan me makut ko amna chirishinas china. Chisom ishitaw amna yauton fo ukesaw yafa. Afay royan me on Guyana akronomak ukesaw yafa. Wakayaw ni rokiroma ukesaw yafa. Amumur siya yan. Amen.
And now let us all say the national pledge. I pledge myself to honor always the flag of Guyana and to be loyal to my country, to be obedient to the laws of Guyana, to love my fellow citizens, and to dedicate my energies towards the happiness and prosperity of Guyana. Thank you. Please be seated. Your Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honorable Pauline Sukai, Minister of Amerindian Affairs, and other members of Cabinet, members of Parliament, PSs, heads of agencies, heads of the joint services, members of the diplomatic corps, regional leaders, chairman of the NTC, Toshaos Derek John, and other members of the executive, delegates of the conference, Toshaos, senior councillors, CDC chairs, special invitees, ladies and gentlemen, youths, members of the media. Good morning and welcome to the opening ceremony of the NTC conference under the theme, Astute Leadership for Amerindian Development. Shall we give ourselves a round of applause as we greet each other warmly this morning? It's always a moment of pride to look around the room at you, our Indigenous leaders, who will spend these next important days together to update, to share, to learn, to discuss issues affecting you, and to collaborate on solutions to improve the well-being of your communities, and importantly, ensure Indigenous voices are present in national policy making. Good to see some fresh, young faces, well, looking fresh and young, who will be sworn in on Friday, and returning faces. Always a joy to see our women in the room, 24 female Toshaos, our traditional knowledge holders, and now here they are in leadership at a national level. The NTC is itself a moment of celebration, a celebration of all the achievements and contributions of Amerindians to Guyana, a celebration of the development and well-being that has already been achieved, a moment of thanksgiving and hope, thanksgiving for the past, those who have made it possible for Amerindian voices today, thanksgiving for you, us, Amerindians. It is also looking towards the future with hope, hope in the opportunities we now have and the dynamic nature of our culture. We pause to acknowledge the passing of a true Guyanese patriot and musical icon, Dr. Dave Martins, AA. We offer our condolences to his wife, Annette, his family, his fans, and offer gratitude for his very significant contributions to the development of our culture. And now, to give the formal welcome and opening remarks, please welcome Chairman of the NTC, Toshaos, Derek John.
Your Excellency the President, Honorable Dr. Infernali, the President of the Republic of Guyana, Honorable Pauline Sukai, Minister of Amerindian Affairs, other cabinet members, regional leaders, fellow Toshaos, members of the executive body, community leaders, other special invitees, ladies and gentlemen, a special welcome to yet another National Toshaos Conference as we gather here under the theme, Astute Leadership for Amerindian Development. I think it's very relevant to be assembling in these 5 days during this week, because in fact, when you looked at the theme, it really spells out something that is very relevant in today's society, especially amongst us, the indigenous people. So the word astute means the ability to discern and assess the situation. And in fact, when you looked around us today, we are able to assess the situation, looking at our natural resources and the way how we can able to sustainably use it for our development. So that is something that is very critical for us, and I want to take this opportunity in thanking His Excellency the President for his astute leadership from a national level. Over the past 2 years, we have worked in collaboration with the government, and I want to say very clearly, I want to acknowledge the effort, the contribution, and the sacrifices of former leaders who could not have been here with us this morning. I must acknowledge Toshaos Shane, Toshaos Sonia Lachman, and other Toshaos who have worked with us, the executive of the National Toshaos Council, so that we can able to craft the future and able for today that you, the leaders, can come here to report the success, the development, and the transformation that is taking place in our indigenous communities. Give ourselves a round of applause. But it was not easy for us to be here. And I just want to take the opportunity in outlining some of the challenges that we have faced over the years, because there are organizations out there who have tried to derail the development. And so the National Toshaos Council had to fight battles. And so it is very important for us to understand that success does not come easy. But when we do have it, we need to cherish it, and we need to recognize the effort and the contribution of our former leaders who could not have been here with us this morning. When we looked around the entire country, Guyana, even though it's a very small country, it is standing out today. Guyana is being recognized worldwide. Why? Because we are the leading country that is fighting climate change. That's one of the natural phenomenon that is affecting the entire world. And even that we are a very small nation, we are leading the world. We are showing to the world what we can do to be able to save this world for future generations. And it takes visionary leadership. And we must again give that credit to His Excellency, the President of Guyana. I know that you have a lot of good stories to come and to report during the past 2 years that, well, some of you are here, but I know that transformation, significant transformation, have taken place at a very rapid rate. Just to recall, what is the contributor to that rapid development over the past 2 years? It's a groundbreaking agreement that the Republic of Guyana had signed with Hess Corporation, whereby we were able to get $750 million for our standing forests. And out of that, 700 indigenous communities were able to benefit from 50% of that carbon credit. And I want to say a big thank you to His Excellency, the President of Guyana. So, Toshaos and village leaders, I want you to use the time to report and to inform this Honorable House of how your community was impacted by this massive funds that are made available to us. Because in the past, we had ideas, we had plans, but we did not have the resources. Today, we have the resources that can be able to support and to make us transform those ideas into reality. And so, I know there are some challenges that we face. And that is why, when we sit this afternoon and we select our regional reps to form the executive body of the National Toshaos Council, it is very important that we put the right qualified, capable leaders who can lead us in the next 3 years. That is something that is very, very critical. Because we, the executive body, are the driving stone behind these development. We are like the advisors to communities. We are there to support technically and whatever way we can. And so we have a very pivotal role to play. So we need people who are committed, people who are visionary, people who are willing to go the extra mile. Because at the end of the day, why we do want to do it? Because we care for our indigenous brothers and sisters. We care for the most vulnerable group in Ghana. And that has been changing over the past couple of years under the stewardship of the PPP government. And so with this, I want to let you know that sitting in the executive body is not an easy task. It's not an easy road. But as long as we are committed and as long as we care for our people, we'll commit ourselves. We'll set a goal. Our dreams will be realized. We will make our people proud. And I want to convey and I want to appeal to you, especially our young leaders who are here with us this morning. These resources are very critical. They are very important. And we need to utilize these resources in a way that will bring benefits and transform the lives of our people. Accountability, transparency is very critical. And so we recognize the fact that some of us are pretty young. And that's why the National Toshaos Council, we are willing to work. We have supported villages in the past 2 years to develop our strategic plan. And we are willing to continue to work to support you so that you can have those plans implemented in a successful way. So what is the National Toshaos Council? So we talk a lot about the National Toshaos Council. And a lot of times we go out and people may say they are not seeing the National Toshaos Council. And I just want to to let you know that you are the National Toshaos Council. You are a member of the National Toshaos Council. And so as long as you are an elected Toshaos, you are a member of the National Toshaos. So the National Toshaos Council presence is in every village, every region, right across the length and breadth of the 10 administrative regions of Guyana. And that's something that we got to understand. And so we have a very critical role to play. You have to work with the executive body so that we can be able to craft a future. We can be able to develop policies and work with relevant agencies so that we will continue to develop the lives of our people. And so I want to thank His Excellency the President. I want to thank the government of Guyana in general of giving us this opportunity so that we can meet here in the city of Guyana over the next 5 days. Guyana is the only country that gives indigenous leaders this opportunity, and we have to be proud of that. Guyana is the first country that have ever set up a legislation that represents and protects the rights of the indigenous people. Now other countries are taking the model out of what we have developed over the past years. And so there's a lot of things that we can be proud of. And so to being a Guyanese, to being an indigenous, it is something that we need to cherish. It is something that we have to understand, that over the years, our forefathers have played a significant role in protecting our forests. And today, this generation and future generations are benefiting from the fruits of their labor and their stewardship. So I want to just let us all put our hands to our forefathers and the work that they have done to protecting our forests. With that being said, I want to wish all of you a successful National Toshaos Conference for the next 5 years. I hope that you use this opportunity to bring to this forum things that are affecting your community, things that can be able to propel development. Your people have entrusted their confidence in you. Let us do not fail our people. So use every moment of your time to truly not be selfish. Think about the people that you have left behind. Think of the people who want to hear you taking back good news to them. Think about the people who are there that want to see the continuous development of our country. So brothers and sisters, all the best. Wish you well for the next 5 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toshaos Derek John, Toshaos of Maracaibo, Chair of the NTC. This is the opening ceremony of the National Toshaos Council Conference, the NTC 2024. And now we invite the Riverside Angels for a dance performance. They will depict 2 dances for us this morning, protecting our forests, so important, and then farming practices, as they dance to Mighty Chief, our indigenous Calypsonians' song. Ladies and gentlemen, the Riverside Angels.
be too Larry. I ain't had no money, but don't think that stop we. Now we living happy. Anytime you see we drinking with Paiwari, this is what we singing. Are we demonstrating? This is how we farming. If you see we fucking, and the Larry joking, in the sun she's sweating, with the axe a cutting, and the Larry raking. We digging the soil, we rooting down in style. If you see this Indian, like the Queen of Sweetland, she say agriculture really give you pleasure. All around your backyard, you can do some joking. It can be a bit hard. Try it for the morning. This is how we farming. If you see we fucking, and the Larry joking, in the sun she's sweating, with the axe a cutting, and the Larry raking. We digging the soil, we rooting down in style. Now me and do Larry, farming like we crazy. Why you think we planting? It's Edo and yam. Anytime I'm cooking, it's fresh pork I using. Anytime we eating, it's plantain she using. This is how we farming. If you see we fucking, and the Larry joking, in the sun she's sweating, with the axe a cutting, and the Larry raking. We digging the soil, we rooting down in style.
Of our many cultural groups, as we proudly showcase them not just during Heritage or NTC, but at any opportunity that we have. This is the opening of NTC, the theme, Astute Leadership for Amerindian Development. We'd like now to take a moment to acknowledge some of our astute leaders in our midst who are not just examples for you, their colleagues, but to young people in the regions across Guyana who are watching, who are listening to this broadcast. May I invite Vice Chair and Toshaos Sonia Latchman, Toshaos of Bethany, to stand so we can acknowledge her. Toshaos is now doing her PhD in education, having just completed her Master's in Leadership and Education on the Gold Program. Thanks, Toshaos. We'd now like to acknowledge and congratulate our other Toshaos who have completed or are doing their postgraduate studies. Toshaos Romario Hastings Kapong of Kako Village completed a Master's in Water and Sustainable Development. Timothy Williams, Toshaos of Aishalton, doing his MSc in Environment Management. Toshaos Keanu Thomas of Tapakuma, doing his Bachelor's in Primary Education at UG. Toshaos Shane Cornelius of Karau, completed his BSc in Computer Science at UG, so we congratulate them and all other leaders who are pursuing various academic programs. We also want to acknowledge that we have a Toshaos who is also a member of Parliament, Toshaos of Parima, Pemon Lee Williams. I'd like you to stand and acknowledge our program coordinator in the NTC, Nandini Jerry from Waramadang, having completed her Master's in Disaster Risk Management and Climate Governance on the Goal Program. Your achievements, along with so many others across our regions, remind us that you are our astute leaders and so many others in our communities. We also know that UG, just 2 months back, they turned the sword for the Macau Tower University of Forests. And 21 communities in the South Rupununi now have an opportunity, and at least each each family, we can expect at least one graduate per household in the near future. Education is and will continue to be the driving force for our hinterland communities' development, and at the helm of Amerindian Affairs during a most transformative time in Guyana is the Honorable Pauline Sukai, Minister of Amerindian Affairs, whom we now invite for remarks.
Good morning, and thank you, Michelle. His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. My colleagues, cabinet members, and members of parliament who is with us, but the house is not filled, so many of our invitees are downstairs. Toshao Derek John, the current chair of the National Toshaos Council, executive members of the National Toshaos Council, respected elected leaders and representatives of the 10 administrative regions of Guyana, members of the diplomatic corps, regional chairpersons and officials, special invitees. It is with great pleasure that I join the National Toshaos Council to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the National Toshaos Council Conference of 2024. Immediately, I wish to congratulate the re-elected Toshaos and the newly elected leaders taking up the leadership roles in your villages and communities. Give yourself a big round of applause. Because it's the confidence that the people has bestowed in you is not really by chance. Your new assignment requires serious commitment for the next 3 years of your term. The NTC members, which is all of you, must foster an approach linked to the involvement of your people in village development plans, decision-making, and feedback for the advancement and expansion of livelihood opportunities. I am pretty confident that this batch of leaders will uphold the principle of good governance, achieving a progressive and upgraded legacy of success, which will bring benefits to all the people of your villages. The National Toshaos Council has aptly approved the conference theme, Astute Leadership for Amerindian Development. Accountability and transparent leadership must be upheld to avoid expending far too much time and resources in resolving grievances. The requirement of the law on financial reporting must be upheld. I urge the NTC to insist on its membership to address the issue of financial reporting to their people. The responsibility of the village council is collectively to manage the resources of the village and to administer the affairs of your people. The Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, and by extension, the government of Guyana, commits to delivering training and empowerment sessions, which most of you have already experienced and received earlier this year. However, soon, a much more aggressive training session will be executed so that we can together work on the improvement of accountability. And so much for the theme. I am pleased to inform you, Toshaos and leaders of all the Amerindian villages and local communities with us here today, that the ministry continue to advance its annual program to support agriculture, women, tourism, infrastructure, transportation, youths, students, among other areas of investments. I wish to also point out that since 2020, there's been a reversal of the neglect which was pervasive in many of the villages, both in the hinterland and in the riverine communities. And therefore, I wish also to remind you or to point out that the transformation that is taking place in villages across the hinterland have seen the replenishment of this household solar systems, where our government invested in more than 30,000 solar panel household systems, which are now with you. There still are some communities that are awaiting their tranche of delivery, and I can assure you that our government has taken note of the remaining villages and communities that still have outstanding or have not received solar household, and they too will be catered for. I wish also to underscore the opportunities that many hinterland young people has benefited from. I heard our chairperson, Madam Chairperson, pointed out and recognized a few of our leaders who are studying under the Gold Scholarship. But I will tell you that where internet connectivity is available, that students from the hinterland, the riverine areas, and local communities are benefiting from the Gold Scholarship. In addition to that, I wish also to say that our government is aggressively pursuing the completion of connectivity to the internet under the Honorable Prime Minister's office. And in a couple of short months from now, I know that we will be able to complete the batch of 203 villages fully connected to the internet. This will open up a wider range of opportunities to our hinterland population, not only the youths, the women, the farmers, but everyone. And the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, in collaboration with the Prime Minister Office, have been training managers for the hubs over the last year and a half. Investment grants are a key feature of our financial support and investment to villages. And therefore, I would like to point out that we continue to provide the presidential grant, other investment grants, and the Honorable Derek John, the chair of the National Toshaos Council, have already spoken with respect to the carbon credit revenue, which is going directly to villages to fund projects that are approved by the villages. And their sustainable plan has been worked from a bottom-up approach and has been approved by the people. Here, I want to inject that in Guyana, our country, our government has made it pretty clear that we will engage our population, we will have dialogue and conversation with them, and the Amerindians have been engaged by our government at all levels during our discussion and debate and crafting of all our strategic national development plans, including the initial low-carbon development strategy and the expanded low-carbon development strategy to 2030. And here is the embodiment. Sitting here, gather here with His Excellency and the cabinet members, in no other country internationally could we find the head of state and his cabinet team sitting for an entire 5 days, deliberating, discussing, listening, and making commitments together, shoulder to shoulder, beside all of you. It is very important to note that. Special mention should be made of our government commitments to youth. And we are very proud that the CSO program is boiling with activity. There are a few slack here and there, or a little bit of lag here and there, but we all have to shoulder the responsibility of ensuring that our young people is brought up, is empowered their capacities built to ensure that they can provide and participate and contribute to community development. That's the core of the YEEP project. And I'm pleased that we have been able, as a government, to have the political will to ensure that the hinterland youths, the Amerindian young people, are fully engaged at the village level with respect to their participation in their village as we speak. I also want to point to the fact that it is our government who continues to champion and to deliver on the matter of land titling and demarcation. I've seen recently, even up to last night and this morning, in the media, especially the social media, that posts are being circulated by young people who I believe need to do a little bit research or engage us as a government, because they're challenging the government to address the land titling problems and concerns and rights of our Amerindian brothers and sisters. And I want to point out that Guyana is the only country thus far that has actually established a land titling unit which is proactively pursuing land titling for indigenous people. And that's also a first for us. I've also noticed, and I would like to bring to the attention of the NTC, because they've been engaged. In fact, we've had to partner many times on this matter, and the chairman has spoken about it, that the challenge to take the fight, to secure the undermining or the erosion of our rights by groups in this country and outside of this country with respect to indigenous people's development, their rights, etc. I have seen recently that in many of the regions, there are grouping of leaders who are, I wouldn't say masquerading, who are operating under the banner of district councils. I want to say that we've done an in-depth look at these matters, and the district councils are not established as yet. Those district councils which seem to be operating are not operating by current sitting Toshaos. They're operated by external actors. Who sets the agenda? Who pays for the accommodation and traveling? Who manages the section and produce very glossy reports which does not come to the government, neither the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, for addressing a resolution of any of the issues raised from those reports. In fact, those reports are channeled overseas to where funding is available, and funding is garnered for their existence and their survivals on the backs of indigenous people, with offering no alternative to indigenous people's development, their livelihood, their empowerment, or transitioning the economic state of their villages. I also want at the opening to remind our leaders that it is important that now that you're elected, that you yourself portray and develop this action of dialogue with your people. Many of the complaints that we receive is that leaders of the past don't hold true to the law, which speaks about having village general meeting, and therefore there's a lot of conflicts and there's a lot of opinions being expressed about leaders, about the village councils, and we need to also look at that. Finally, I am proud that the reality is that the government of Guyana has stood as a solid and dependable partner with the National Toshaos Council, which is the legitimate representative of the Amerindian people, and that the existing legislation, which Our government and His Excellency has given the positive light for us to examine and to review so that we can strengthen indigenous rights and benefits under the existing law. I want to say that is also a very big step to demonstrate the political willingness of a government who walks beside the people, who work beside the people, and who stand beside the people, delivering their commitments to the people. I also want to say that there is a matter which I believe I would want to touch on while I'm here at the podium, and that is the criticism that in Guyana, Amerindians do not have self-determination. The law itself provides for self-determination. The village council is a democratically elected body, and they make sure that they consult, and anything that comes from the bottom to the government, I can assure you that our government has worked with what came from the people. The self-determination lies with the village council and the people. The mere fact that you can elect your own leaders, that your leaders can make with you your village sustainable plans, which you provide approval to before any action or support is made, is evidence of self-determination. Our government will proceed to support you. By extension, the entire government, all the sectors that have been working hard to provide the upliftment in every sector, agriculture, infrastructure, health, education. We have made that commitment to the Guyanese people, and the Amerindians are not left out, because ending, His Excellency has the task, a big task, in this transitioning country to ensure that our people are united and that our people are not left behind. And it's under that philosophy that we intend as a government to pursue what we call the development of one Guyana, where all of us, including the indigenous people, will find their rightful place, have their rights extended, and the benefits accrued to them. I thank you. I wish you well in your deliberations, and I also wish you well with your elections for the new executive to take hold of the NTC and proceed with the work at hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Pauline Sukai, Minister of Amerindian Affairs. And now we will have a dance performance from the Mainstay Junior Cultural Group, but they're going by the name Anana. It means pineapple in the Arawak language. The dancers are from Mainstay Primary, Anna Regina Secondary, and Cottonfield Secondary. Their choreographer is Sir Trevon Pearson, a teacher who will be graduating from CPC in October, and they are making their debut here at the opening ceremony of the NTC. So let's give them some encouragement with a round of applause. Their dance item is titled The Chief. to see them in other programs. That was their debut performance, and what a beautiful occasion to do so. Then the opening of the NTC. This is the opening ceremony as we welcome all of our Toshaos here into the capital. Some of you journeyed for a few days to get here. And so quickly, as always, we like to do a roll call of all of our Toshaos, starting with our Toshaos from Region 1. If it's possible, you can stand. I know we have some overflow in the dome. So all the Toshaos from Region 1, we'd like you to stand so that we can give you a warm welcome. All our Toshaos from Region 1, good to have you with us. I know the Vice President was in your region just recently. Next, our Toshaos from Region 2. Region number 2, our Toshao from Region 3, and the other 2 regions will be similar. Region 4, Region 5, Region 6, our 2 Toshaos, Region 7. Region 8, Region 9, and Region 10. The Toshaos that always come well decked out for the occasion. Welcome Toshaos from all of our regions. Let's give them another round of applause. And now we've mentioned that there are some young Toshaos, first-time Toshaos. I think the youngest Toshao might be 21 years of age. I can't confirm. Toshao Alex Augustine of Sand Creek. Where is he? Our 21-year-old Toshao. There he is. I hope that you listened attentively to what ministers shared a moment ago. And so from one young leader, it's now my pleasure to invite another young leader, a future architect, a student of the Brickdam Secondary, heading off to UG next month, a proud Santa Mission youth, eagerly awaiting her CSEC results this week. Please welcome Hinterland Scholarship student Ariel Lim for an important introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed leaders of our indigenous communities, it is an immense honor to introduce to you a visionary leader who has dedicated his life to the service and advancement of our beloved nation. This outstanding servant has been at the forefront of transformative change, guiding our country through a period of remarkable growth and development. Under his stewardship, Ghana has witnessed unprecedented economic progress, emphasizing inclusivity, sustainability, and the empowerment of all citizens, particularly our indigenous peoples. His unwavering commitment to fostering unity and preserving the rich cultural heritage of our indigenous communities is evident in his policies and initiatives that aim to uplift and protect our rights and way of life. As we convene for the National Toshaos Conference 2024, we are honored to hear from a leader who deeply comprehends the significance of collaboration, respect, and partnership. His vision for Guyana is one of inclusivity, where every citizen, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to thrive and contribute for the nation's prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed leaders of our indigenous communities, please stand and join me in welcoming His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Ghana, as he addresses us.
Thank you. Thank you very kindly. Please have your seats. My respected Toshaos, the great indigenous leaders of our country, and we know that the leadership from our Toshaos are in the leadership from our Toshaos and the leadership of our communities is in great hands when we see the transformation that is taking place and a number of young people that are now putting their hands up and providing great leadership for our villages and communities. I want us to put our hands together. This is a very good sign, and this is an important part of the evolution of leadership. But before I proceed any further today, I think this gathering perhaps is one of the most fitting gatherings to pay tribute to an outstanding son of the soil, Dave Martin. And I ask us all to stand in a moment of reflection, prayerful reflection on this great icon and legend of Guyana and the Caribbean. I thank you. Chair of the National Toshaos Council, executive members of the National Toshaos Council, Toshaos, members of cabinet, members of the diplomatic community, heads of our joint services, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all the different heads of different agencies of government, children, young people, those who we cannot accommodate in the dome but are listening to us downstairs. All of you, good morning and welcome to the National Toshaos Council Conference, which is the most representative forum of indigenous people in our nation. Let us understand that the NTC is the custodian of indigenous people's hopes and dreams and a protector of their rights. You are all here not by guess, not by accident, not by gift. You are here because you were elected by your communities as leaders for your communities. You're not here brought together through financing mechanism with any self-interest or any political interest. You are here because you presented to your people a plan of action in which they believed in you and they elected you to ensure that plan of action brings betterment for them. So too is this government here. We were elected by the people of this country. We were elected by people from your community because we presented to them a plan of action and they believe in that plan of action and they wanted us to implement that plan of action. You're not here at the mercy of any organization. You're not subjected to any other organization or any associations that are being formed with political narrative. You are responsible for your communities and you are leaders who we respect totally and completely. The NTCC is not just a body of leaders. You are the voice of our indigenous people. a voice that must not shy away from speaking out and adopting bold positions on matters that directly impact the lives of indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples' empowerment begins with you, National Toshaos Council. One of the key ways in which government is supporting this empowerment is through our support to the NTC. The government is also committed to working with you, not just for you, in realizing a vision of development that respects your cultural identity. For us, your future must be anchored in heritage. Let us never forget that the future we build must be rooted in our heritage. Very important. The heritage is not just a part of your identity. It is the font of strength, a source of pride, and a foundation upon which to build a prosperous future. And this was not always the case. And today, because of the narrative, because of the deliberate attempt to reshape the history, struggles, aspirations of the indigenous people, I have decided to spend a lot of time with you this morning for us to factually go through, for us to factually examine different phases of the history of the development of our country and the development of our indigenous communities and our hinterland communities. And to examine factually the policies and programs, to examine factually the results, and then you will determine what is what and who is what. As people of faith, whatever you do must be founded on principles that govern your decision making. One of the most beautiful things about indigenous communities that I enjoy is your sense of nationalistic pride. You're all patriots. When you go to a community in the hinterland, you would not do anything or start anything before giving thanks and praise to God and understanding that we are all children of a greater being. And then you follow that up with honor to your country. And then you'll follow honor to your country with honor to your culture and heritage. That tells us something, that fundamentally your belief system surrounds God, country, and culture. And this is an example that we should all take as a country. This is an example that you show every single time you gather together, that we should all examine as a country and adopt, because it's an example with great benefits. And especially for international friends, I think it's important that you too have a good understanding of the historical evolution of development, especially in the hinterland community. So today, I wish to examine 4 different periods in the history of our country, so we can have an understanding of policy making, of governance, and then I want to examine the truth. We believe strongly in democracy. And I believe every entity must have the opportunity to speak freely, democratically, and openly. And any government I lead would hold this as fundamental. This is a core principle and belief of the People's Progressive Party Civic. But equally important is that your hands must not hide from who you are. If you're political, you're political. If you're a political entity, you're a political entity. But do not hide under the veil of NGOs and these things. That is hypocrisy. And I will examine factually, some of these things tonight, this morning. Factually. And then you make the determination. As leaders, as people, you make the determination. Let me start with a period pre-1992. And why I use pre-1992? All of us know 1992 was when democracy was restored in our country. 1992 was when all of us, those before us, worked and overcome the period of dictatorship, and our country was infused with democracy once again. And how beautiful democracy is, how beautiful freedom is. And that is why anywhere in this world where democracy and freedom is threatened, we must speak out and speak up. We must join countries in speaking out against undemocratic rules and principles, and in situations where the will of the people is trampled upon, our voice must be the loudest. Our voice must be the loudest. So the period pre-1992 is a period where Guyana was characterized by neglect. I don't have to tell you, the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, highest level of indebtedness, social services non-existent. But in all of that, it was a period of the greatest marginalization of our Amerindian brothers and sisters. You were largely left out of Guyana's social and economic development, leaving you in a disadvantaged position. And that's a statement of fact. How do we know that? Let us go to the facts. Let's start with political exclusion. Amerindians were underrepresented and had little influence over national policies. Your needs were inconsequential to the PNC government at that time. How do we know that? Let me show you. Your affairs were handled by a department within the Ministry of Regional Development. That is where the affairs of the Amerindian people of this country was handled. The indigenous people, the first people of our country. Your affairs were handled by a department in the Ministry of Regional Development. And guess how many staff you had in the department? One staff. The head of department. Statement of fact, young people. Statement of fact. And what services were given? It's important because I'm going pre-oil, oil, all I'm going to do this morning. While absolute poverty in our country was above 45%. During this period, our international friends, absolute poverty was above 45% nationally. But you know what was worse? You know what was worse? The poverty, absolute poverty among the Amerindians, among the indigenous people, was almost 80%. Let's do this lesson of history today. Absolute poverty at a national level was just about 45%. But among indigenous and Amerindian communities, it was almost 80%, my brothers and sisters. This is not what I'm saying. This is part of the history of our country. In other words, 7 out of every 10 households in the hinterland region, well, 7.9, almost 8 out of every 10 households in the hinterland region were faced with absolute poverty. This was the state of affairs. This is the history. 8 out of every 10 households pre-1992 was faced with absolute poverty. Most Amerindian villages had no access to formal education, primary schools, trained teachers, sanitation facility. For a matter of fact, no scholarships were awarded in Region 1, 7, 8, and 9 prior to 1992. You hear that? No scholarships were awarded. This was the PNC government. In 1991, the secondary enrollment ratio in the hinterland region was substantially less than half of the national average. You're talking about marginalization. You're talking about discrimination. As a people, our Amerindian people, indigenous people, your ratio of enrollment in secondary school was less than half of the national average. You didn't even have secondary schools. Were those strategies and policies deliberate in nature? It's a question that must be answered. Young people, today we have an opportunity to examine some very important history. That's a good background music to push this. As a result of this, our Amerindian young people never had the opportunity of dreaming of a secondary education. You never had the opportunity of dreaming of a university education. You never had the opportunity of dreaming to become a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, an engineer, an architect, a specialized person in urban planning, in water treatment, in the environment. Today, you're not dreaming, you are achieving. Today, our older leaders could have been what you are. Pay homage to them because they were left neglected and marginalized. The People's Progressive Party fixed that. That is why today we can achieve what we are achieving. healthcare services were similarly sparse, with very few health centers. And trained personnel, doctors, almost non-existent. In the whole country, we had less than 200 doctors. So imagine what the indigenous people went through. In the entire hinterland regions of Guyana, riverine and hinterland region, we had less than 12 health centers. Less than 12 health centers with less than 3% functioning. That was pre-1992. In all of these regions, we had less than 195 beds. And out of the 195 beds, less than 25% of them had mattress. So you had wooden cots, not beds. This is the history. This is the facts. Let's write the history. Let's understand the history. This is where we came from. In 1990, less than 25% of the population in hinterland communities had access to safe drinking water. Less than 7% had access to sanitation services. %20 of the household in region 1, 7, 8, and 9 were reliant on kerosene lamps. The rest, darkness. That was the situation. Let's talk a bit now about economic exploitation, marginalization, and isolation. The Amerindian communities were excluded from mainstream development activities. Their geographic isolation contributed to their social and economic marginalization. That is in their literature. They thought it was too expensive and too far to visit and service the Amerindian communities. As a result, the Amerindian people were often subjected to economic exploitation with little support for economic development or access to markets. Today, my friends, when we go to your communities, coming from a situation like this, you can stand up and ask for ATVs, tractors, trucks, solar farms. You can stand up and ask for scholarships. You can celebrate teachers and doctors from the community. You can celebrate tractor with implement. And most of all, you can tell the head of state and the cabinet frankly how you feel about them without fearing anything. You can tell the president he didn't visit us often enough. That is a sweet feeling of freedom against oppression. And we will always welcome that feeling from your community. Your land rights were not recognized, nor were they protected. And you decide, examine among yourselves what took place with your culture. Zero provision was made for your cultural development. One writer said, there was a deliberate attempt at the suppression of Amerindian cultural practices and language. One historical writer wrote that. Let us examine what took place after the rebirth of democracy, the return of democracy in 1992. A different period now. We move from the PNC, AFC, because they're one bundle of joy. I'm moving now to the PPP civic government. No oil, a broken economy, 98 cents on every dollar to repay debt, lowest secondary and primary enrollment rate in the world. Let's listen to the story. What took place? Without oil, in the period of the People's Progressive Party civic government, the capital expenditure to Amerindian community increased 25-fold. Isn't this commitment? Isn't this love? Isn't this a government that cares? 25-fold. Without oil. As a result, we saw a tremendous improvement in health, education, housing, water and sanitation, roads, bridges, agriculture. I believe you want me to give you some specific examples, so I'll do that. Indeed, the per capita investment, that is the investment for every man, woman, and child in region 1, 7, 8, and 9, what we invested in each of you to improve your life was an average close to increase by an average of 3,000%. When we took an undemocratic country, a democratic country in 1992, before we even found oil, we invested in each member of the hinterland and riverine community, each indigenous community. We increased the investment for every person by 3,000%. Brothers, sisters, isn't this commitment? Isn't this commitment? And let's look at political inclusion and governance, because some of these people like to talk about that. Political inclusion and governance. The Amerindian representation in government and local government improved. Why did it improve? With the establishment of the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs. From a department headed by one person, staffed by one person, to a ministry. One of the most dynamic ministries in our country, the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs. Created by who? The People's Progressive Party civic government. In 2003, the PPPC government passed legislation that established the National Toshaos Council, which continues today. Where are the writers on governance? Where are the writers on inclusion? This is not accidentally left out. This is deliberately left out because there is a deliberate strategy to rewrite the history. Will not allow it. It is in 2003 that the People's Progressive Party civic government passed legislation that established the National Toshaos Council, which continues today. That was not all. It was the PPC that created the annual forum to have our Toshaos participate in the decision-making process that continues today. This forum was created by the People's Progressive Party civic government. This program will continue to be here as long as the people of this country would have the People's Progressive Party civic government. Yes, the next subject I'd like to talk about is land rights and recognition. Where is the head of the land? Oh, fine. On to something special. Robson, you work a lot in these communities. You should write the history. That's the problem when y'all don't write the history. Land rights and recognition. The new Amerindian Act of 2006 was a landmark piece of legislation that provided legal recognition of Amerindian land ownership and outlined the process for demarcation and titling of Amerindian lands. Who did that? Not the 28 years of dictatorship and the 5 years of planning to rig. I see my good friend, the Honorable Schumann. Happy you turned up today. So the Amerindian Act of 2006, young people, my young scholar from Brickdam, you will sit with me and we'll write together, right? Beautiful. In 2015, we ain't talking about oil yet, you know, Ashley, because there's the story to carry in. In 2015, 17 villages were legally demarcated, amounting to 4,175 square kilometers of land, legally entitled communal land for more than 14,000 Amerindians. Who was in government? Who did it? Truth and facts will start shaping the narrative of this country. We have to start doing this. Otherwise, the same people who try to steal an election, the same people who try to justify that 32 is greater than 33, the same people will come back. The Holy Book tells us, be careful of who come back. Because some will come back claiming they're Christ. Jerry, stay close to the church. See the Mexican ambassador look perplexed. My friends, you didn't know this. In 2015, 17 villages were illegally demarcated. 4,175 square kilometers of land was legally titled to the Amerindians. Let me hear you. Let me hear the leaders. Let me hear you. You're not going to clap for that? This was not a gift. This was the struggle, the combined struggle of your ancestors and a government that uplifted the struggle, the People's Progressive Party civic government. And we must be proud of that combined accomplishment. We must be proud. See my paper getting mixed up now. Let's talk a bit about cultural revival and protection. They talk about this too. This is another subject matter of the displacers of history. Today, we celebrate every year. We look forward for the Indigenous Peoples Month celebration. When did this happen? When did we dedicate 1 month of heritage for the first people, the indigenous people of this country? It was in 1995. You talk about love, respect, and we did not only dedicate the month, we budgeted resources to support cultural activity. We budgeted resources to support community activity. Talk about cultural revival and protection. And I just given a taste because Marcia removed 75% of what I wanted to say. The PPC government did not stop there. We designated September as Indigenous Peoples Month to preserve, honor, and recognize the contributions, language, culture, and heritage of the indigenous peoples of Guyana. We then budgeted resources for the revival of the language. We don't talk it, we do it. Huh, Frank? You want the 5 minutes? Yes, Frank was the Minister of Culture, Youth, and Sports. He would tell you that we even created dictionaries for indigenous languages. Don't believe they can lecture us on these things, because we have a history of doing and accomplishing. And every time you come to this parliament, members of cabinet and members of parliament, dedicate 4 minutes to this. Dedicate 4 minutes to history lessons. Important. Youth empowerment and employment, that's the next thing. That's the next. I'm speaking before oil all the time, you know. Before oil, let's talk about youth empowerment and employment. Before oil, more than 2,000 young people were hired as CSOs. The initiative was part of the Youth Entrepreneurship and Apprenticeship Program launched by the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs. Before oil. And imagine after oil, they fire all of them. You come into that period, that's the third period. Health. Remember I told you earlier, prior to 1992, almost non-existent supply of medicines. Before oil, medicines and supplies availability improved to 70% and peaked at 80% in 2010. 70% availability of medicines in the hinterland region, peaked at 80% by 2010. And what did we see? Reduction of mortality rates, an increase in early detection of illnesses. In education, Priya, Want some coffee? Priya is my friend, you know. We serve young people together, right, Priya? You know, Priya was the president of the National Presbyterian Youth Arm. We'll give her a round of applause. My friends, hello. She's very much Let's go to education. I described the period when no scholarship was given. Before oil, hundreds of scholarships were given to Amerindian communities and Amerindian children, resulting in doctors, medics, nurses, health workers, teachers. From zero, we could have celebrated medics, doctors, teachers, engineers, media personalities. Oh, I forget that. Michelle, sorry. Your villages and your communities went on from zero to producing the best and finest in our country. A minister of Amerindian Affairs that became the Minister of Foreign Affairs, that is now our permanent representative of the United Nations. That now chairs, that went on to chair the United Nations Security Council. Mercy. That is the power of education. That is the power of investing in you, the people. That's not all. Without oil, the government introduced the Because We Care cash grant, an initiative which saw $350 million in the hands of parents and children of our indigenous communities. Without oil, power and electricity. The PPPC government launched the hinterland electrification program without oil. You forgot that. Y'all remember this? We launched the hinterland electrification program without oil, providing electricity to Madhya, Mabaruma, Kwakwani, Letem through power generation. How easily we can forget these, eh? The first tranche, when was the first tranche of solar household, the solar system we brought in? 2011. 2011, brothers and sisters. The discussion wasn't even maturing internationally about solar household power. And we brought it. We brought it to the hinterland and indigenous people without oil. Human services. In 2009, the Child Care and Protection Agency was established that offered direct support. Priya, you were there. Direct support to the hinterland communities. Targeted support. Financed it. In 2005, I talk about economic exploitation that existed in the community. We launched the Counter Trafficking in Persons Act, was passed. If we were not committed to these things, would we go to the parliament and pass the act and set the legislative agenda? The old age pension payments, without oil, were introduced to the hinterland. The Ministry of Tourism was created. Let's go to tourism. The Guyana Tourism Authority was established. leading to official work program designed to support indigenous communities through training and marketing. The Rupununi Rodeo began to gain recognition as a major tourism product in the early 2000s. These things did not happen by accident. Private tour operators commenced operations to attractive hinterland locations, creating new economic activities for community. That didn't happen by accident. By support and investment. We launched Without Oil, the hinterland housing pilot, the hinterland housing subsidy program, the Black Tank program, the hinterland water harvesting program. Without Oil. Hundreds of families were given houses. The sanitation program to build septic tanks and what we call proper washrooms was launched between 2009 and 2014. Thousands benefited from hinterland and riverine communities. And forestry. What's going on? The compounded annual growth rate stood at 5.5%. This is the history. Let's move on now. Period 2015 to 2020. Five years of plotting and rigging action. Is it working? Thank you. Okay. Is this one working? All right. How much y'all miss? I don't mind. I'll go over. The period 2015 to 2020, a period of destruction, stagnation, and disrespect for you. And I'll prove the disrespect. Huh? I'll come into that, man, like you want to jump past me. Tell me, brothers and sisters, how many new surveys were done? How many new titles were given? How many absolute grants were given? They went back to the pre-1992 strategy. Nothing. It was only the surveys that we started, and they did not even complete it. Ask yourself a question, young people. Doesn't this tell you something about philosophy and policy? Doesn't this activate your minds to think deeply? It should. And when the Amerindians complain about the way the APNU AFC, the way the APNU AFC managed the Amerindian land titling, is sitting minister of the government labeled the first people. You can say it now as, no, put on the mic. I give you a moment.
Avaricious.
Exactly. On the floor of this house, on the floor of Parliament, got up and described the indigenous people of this country as avaricious, and refused to apologize. We got up and asked him to apologize. He refused, and all of them sitting on the government side laughed. Oh yeah, well, tell them the meaning, man. Take a next moment.
Avaricious means greedy.
That was the disrespect. That is what they thought of you. Put on the mic, Truman, tell them.
I was the vice chair of the National Toshaos Council, and I was there.
And you asked for an apology publicly.
Not granted.
Not granted. Can you imagine? Never apologize. Just like they're never apologizing for their attempts to rig the elections. And just like they're never apologizing for trying to justify that 32 is greater than 33. And they come as the virtuous people of truth and belief and honor and dignity. The Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, without consultation, was renamed to the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs. I'm going through, this is with oil now, you know. All this happening with oil now. 2,000 CSOs were fired and their money taken away. The Because We Care grant was extracted from your homes and your pocket. This is with oil. This is an oily situation. Ambassador, I miss Parliament. 2,000 CSOs' jobs were taken away. The Because We Care grant was grabbed away from you. 35,000 children and their parents suddenly became poorer. The grant extracted from their hands and pockets. It's pickpocket. As a result of this one extraction, every year, your community lost $350 million. That is at the rate we left it, 10,000. Today, we brought it back, we took it to 40,000, and it'll get it to 50,000. $350 million extracted annually. Using the number we left, I wouldn't even lose the number we got now. They get bad feelings. Using what we gave when we left, that is, they took away from you in that 5 years, from your children, $1.7 billion. $1.7 billion that we left for your children, they took it away with oil. Remember, I just told you, without oil, we took medicine availability to 70%, and in 2010, 80%. With oil, in that 5 years, medicine and medical supplies availability went down from 70% to 40%. This is with oil. Medicine availability went down from 70% to 40%. They stopped the training of local health workers, carried out limited diagnostic and infrastructure work, reversing the gains made in the period leading up to 2015. Sports, non-existent. I dare them to tell you what they spent on sport. You'll be shocked. Guess what? The scholarship that was zero, that we brought back, with oil, the scholarship for indigenous people declined by 27.6%. And they say they love you. They say they're the champions of your right. And in all of this, in the takeaway of the grant, in the firing of the CSO, in the reduction from 80% to 40% in medical supplies, in the reduction of scholarship by 27.6%. Where was the APA? Where was the voice of the APA? Where was this independent organization? Where were their voices? Why were they silent? Why were they complicit? The only voice was the NTC, who stood consistently. The only voice that stood consistently on principle and in representation of the Amerindian people was the NTC, and I salute you. Schuman was there. And I'll give him recognition, although he cost me up too. It is this NTC that is subject to all kinds of abuses. It is this NTC that is subject to all kinds of abuses that stood consistently. Not a word from this so-called independent APA. But the truth always exposes the agenda. Suddenly, the head make an easy, deliberate, successful transition to political leadership. And they say they're independent. But where were their voices? Ask yourself, why was the silence? Let me correct myself. Why was it deliberate silence? I got some other stuff. I'm going to come back to it. Let me make sure I put it in a corner. Come back there. That was not all, Priya. With oil, 71% of the textbooks needs of the region were not met. With oil, they're reversing gains we made without oil. 71% of all the textbook needs were not met. Go consult the Auditor General report, you will see it there. Huh? They imposed VAT on hinterland travel. You remember that or you forgot? That VAT was introduced on hinterland travel. You know what that did to you? Every year, it extracted $600 million from your pockets. $600 million every year it extracted from your pockets because of VAT on hinterland travel. So for the 5 years, they extracted $3 billion from your pockets. They imposed VAT on machinery and equipment. And guess what? The annual growth rate that we had in forestry moved from 5% to negative 5.5%. Negative 5.5%. They threw away the LCDS. Right, Vanessa? No telemedicine. Health spending per capita was struggling, limping massively behind the national average. Let me fast forward. With your help, with good people who believe in democracy, the People's Progressive Party Civic was returned in 2020. And we were returned in COVID. We had to battle COVID for almost 2 years. Battled 3 major floods, a major drought, the highest prices, increase in prices for world transportation, the highest prices for food globally. We battled all of that. And here is what we were still able to do. We came back We removed the VAT on local air travel, putting back $3 billion in your pocket, giving you $3 billion saving right away, off the bat. And what did we see? As of June 30th, 2024, passenger traffic is 48% increase over 2023. 48% increase over 2023. More people are visiting your communities. More spending is created in your communities. But more importantly, 50% increase in cargo movement over 2023. 50%. Education, from a reduction in the percentage of scholarship going to the hinterland, 16% of gold scholarship is now given to hinterland communities directly, representing almost 5,000 of the 29,000 we have given. 5,000 of the 29,000. From the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs support to secondary education, I'm not talking about the tens of billions you're spending, Priya. I'm just talking about the additional support that comes from the Amerindian Affairs for pocket allowance, dorms allowance, and these things. Almost $500 million we invested. And we have an increase from a decrease of 27.6%. We now have an increase in Ministry of Public Service scholarship to the hinterland by almost 21%. Who love you? Who care about you? Who invests in you? These are the facts. In 2024, the hinterland will benefit from 28 new nursery schools. That's right, right? More? How much? No, tell me. How much more? Right. 42 new nursery schools. 42 new nursery schools. I'm going to repeat it. Your regions are going to get 42 new nursery schools. How many new primary, Priya? I'm not even going to what we build. They build nothing. And secondary schools, 16 new secondary schools with major dorms, lab facility. We have trained close to 500 teachers already. Right, Priya? More? How many? 743 of your teachers trained in the hinterland. Priya, I'm working a strategy. You put on the mic and see it.
Yes, thank you, sir. So we currently...
No. How many teachers we train? Just say it.
Trained already 743. We have 100% of our teachers in the hinterland either trained or currently in training.
You hear that?
That's never before happened.
You hear that? Lend me your ear, for I come here to bury the false narrative and the untruth. The Because We Care grant that was taken away. Well, I don't have to tell you the story. It has been returned, increased, billions of dollars in the pockets of your children, and I assure you, you will get the $50,000. Hundreds of millions of dollars in hinterland school grants to ensure teachers and schools have the right, the assets that will support learning, the learning aid, the learning material. Hundreds of millions directly transferred to the schools. Never before. Hundreds of millions of dollars invested in textbooks to ensure your children have access to textbooks. Smart classrooms being created. And by the way, I've instructed the Ministry of Education to ensure that all the classrooms that require the dish and the digital support mechanism, all of it is completed within 8 weeks. All of it. And let me say this. I've asked the Minister of Finance to examine ways in which small contracts, those $10 million furniture contract, little road contract, fence contracts, can be done right in the community, where you in the community will do it yourself. So in the new program of works, all those work will come directly and will maximize the labor in your community. And I have one more announcement to make, so you will invest that resource that I'm going to talk about. Our health spending per capita outpacing, when you look at capital investment and current investment, outpacing, not only matching, outpacing the per capita investment in the rest of the country. Because we have to work harder in our communities to ensure the gap that was left there is reduced as fast as possible. Building modern facilities, ensuring, we have said, the Ministry of Health and Education have a task within the next 14 months to ensure that every single health center and education facility, they are painted well, they have good washroom facility, they have good waiting area facility, and they are accommodating to people and provide good customer service. The mapping exercise has been completed, and within 14 months they have to finish every single facility across the country. A total of 32 health posts, health centers, and district hospitals are already upgraded. 600 health workers were added to Region 1, 7, 8, and 9. 600 health workers, which include 200 community health workers. The availability of medicine and supplies gone up back to 85%. 85%. We now have ambulance, ATVs, boats, medical evacuation system readily available to the hinterland community. We have the eye care voucher, HPV screening, dental care service being rolled out directly in your villages. In recognizing and ensuring all hinterland communities get access to emergency care, an average of $154 million is invested in medical evacuation flights. So far, we have conducted more than 1,500 medical evacuation flights between 2020 and 2024. 1,500 medvac flights to support your communities. Isn't this care? Isn't this commitment? Isn't this love? We have introduced telemedicine to 36 sites. Let me go on. Let's talk about the LCDS. They came into government and they threw out the LCDS. All the hard work of Pradeepa, Vanessa, Sham, the entire team, all the LCDS persons here, team members, stand up, please. We didn't bring the whole team. Give these people a big round of applause. They are the best in the business of forest management. Not in Guyana. They are the best in the world. Take it from me. the government has updated and expanded the LCDS. We came back. We did not only bring back the LCDS, we updated and expanded the LCDS. Under the revised LCDS, the government was able to secure a landmark purchase agreement with HES. Through this agreement, HES will purchase $750 million of carbon credit between 2022 and 2032. In 2023, US $150 million was received from HES. And guess what? 15% of this was allocated to 242 indigenous villages, a total of $4.7 billion. $22.5 million, $4.7 billion was transferred directly to your villages. Isn't this trust? Isn't this honor? Isn't this dignity? Isn't this recognition? Isn't this belief? We did it because we believe in you. We recognize you. We honor you. And we are committed to you. That is why. And my friends, as a result of this investment, over 800 transformative projects are on the way in villages, which has resulted in growth and development, expansion, building of eco-lodges, tourism facility, agriculture facility. All of this is ongoing. All of this is ongoing as a result of this investment. Now I want you to listen carefully. This year, the total revenue received from carbon credit sale is $87.5 million, which is less than last year, right? So your 15% should be less because it's $87.5 million. But because we are a government that care and love you, because we are a government that believes in giving more and not less, we have taken a decision to allocate 26.5% of the earning this year to you. Although the agreement is 15%, we do not want you to get less than what you had. We have increased the percentage of this year earning to 26.5%, ensuring that you will get no less than what you got last year. You will get $23.2 million or 4.84 billion Guyana dollars in your villages, directly transferred to your villages. Isn't this love? Let me hear you. Isn't this love? Isn't this honor? Isn't this commitment? Isn't this belief? We believe in you as much as you believe in us. And let's go on, because we love to talk about land titling. Since we came back, we are working on 13 areas. 9 villages demarcated and received the certificate of title, and this does not include the 4 villages that have now accepted the certificate of title. Under this administration, another almost 8,700 Amerindians have legal title to their land. Just a couple of years ago, the period 2015 to 2020, nothing. We couldn't do surveys during the period of COVID, so the pace at which we wanted to go was tremendously affected. Yet, we have 14 titles. Right, Pauline? Including those that we're in processing now. Youth empowerment, $4.2 billion expended in youth empowerment. We did not only rehire the 2,000 CSOs, we have now rehired almost 2,800 CSOs, $3.5 billion transferred to young people and villages. This is a history. More than 1,300 CSOs trained, 62 CSOs in tourism, trained in garment production, small engine repairs, tractor driving, solar installation, ICT servicing. And through the investment fund, the Amerindian Investment Fund, we've invested $1.7 billion in 220 communities. Through the presidential grant, we've invested more than $1.6 billion. The support for agriculture development, more than $1 billion. This is outside of the direct transfer. Water transportation, almost $600 million. The construction of the National Toshaos Council Secretariat, almost $128 million. Chairman, you have a cocktail there tonight? Oh, now you're going to your own head office. In water, since 2020, we've invested more than $3.4 billion. And a further $1.5 billion will be spent in 2024. We have doubled coverage to 83%. We are targeting 93% of all regions by the end of 2024. More than 75 new wells have been completed. 40 new wells are being completed in 2024. And investment in sanitation is also being aggressively pursued. We have delivered 30,000 solar PV home energy system at a cost of almost $1.8 billion. We have commissioned a new 1 megawatt solar PV farm in Linden. This investment alone would have saved the authority there 3,966 drums of diesel. These are the investment we are making. To further strengthen energy security in the Region 9, we are constructing a 1.5 megawatt hydropower plant at Kumu and a 0.7 megawatt plant at Makumaka. Investment of $2.7 billion. Isn't this commitment? Isn't this bridging the gap? 31 solar mini-grids are being installed all across Region 1, Region 2, Region 5, Region 7, Region 8, Region 9, and Region 10. All of these regions will benefit from different degree of mini-grids. Outside of that, the GGMC would have spent almost $9 billion to maintain important hinterland road links, 4,614 kilometers of road network maintained. The Ministry of Public Works spent almost $20 billion on construction of roads. For the first time in the history of our country, communities are getting asphaltic roads, concrete roads. It's amazing. When I come to your community now, you're not asking for a trail, you're asking for concrete roads. You're asking because you believe that we can deliver it. You're asking because you are seeing it. You're asking because you know you deserve it. You're asking because you know you have a government that will support you getting it. And together, we will do it. I told my ADC to ensure I don't speak beyond 30 minutes. What are we now, 27? 27. Road infrastructure, ICT, tremendous investment. 140 hinterland and remote communities have access to the government Wi-Fi now. 109 grants, valued more than $407 million, was invested in the hinterland for the construction of ICT hubs. And all the hubs that are currently waiting full operationalization will be completed within the next 6 months. All of them will have all the facilities. And you guys know when I say something, what happens, because I visited many of your villages. Forestry, from negative 5.5 growth back to 5.5 positive growth. Human services, 2,000 hinterland residents trained through WIN, right, Windy? Increase of more than 60% increase in old age pension since 2020. Over $7 billion spent to date on old age pension, disability assistance, and public assistance in your communities. Free distribution of wheelchairs, spectacles to the hinterland. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent on enhancing sports facility and supporting sport program. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent on housing. New regional hospitals are being built. Billions of dollars being spent. $4.5 billion spent on food security, improving and expanding agriculture. These are the investments that we are making to make your life better. My friends, we must all, it is okay to be critical, but we must speak from where we are. My only problem is that you cannot claim to be independent and apolitical when you are indeed fully political and not independent. And let me give you the facts. In 2013, I will not call the organization name. I'll give you the facts and ask you what you think if someone did this. Imagine you're running a country. And in 2013, an organization write the IDB and World Bank to stop loans to come to your country for development. That organization love your country? Where in the world would an organization that claim they love the people, love the country, and are nationalistic, where in the world would that organization write organization and say to the organization, I want all loans, grants, money coming to this country to be stopped? In the same year, in 2023, after you come with the world strategy, an LCDS that is world celebrated, the expanded LCDS, we are now co-chairing the Commonwealth Committee. I'm going to go to, I shouldn't say it now. Let's keep it as a surprise. I see people look at me, no. We are now leading again on forest management and carbon. And we are working aggressively to ensure that we are the leaders on biodiversity. Tremendous work is ongoing there now. Imagine in 2023, when our entire forest will be certified and we will earn money that will come to your community that I announced just now. An organization would write asking for sanctions to be placed against our carbon credit sales. They are the patriots. Imagine they would write to stop payment. That is the greatest form of colonization. What is our heritage? Your heritage that has the potential of transforming your life. They would write to stop or block the carbon sale. actively advocating around the world for Guyana's carbon credit program to be stalled or discredited. They've approached international bodies, casting doubt, baseless, on our programs, despite all that I've said. My friends, this very organization, when your jobs were taken away, when access to medicine fell to 40%, when your scholarship reduced, when the investment in your community was reduced, said nothing. This very apolitical organization, when democracy was under threat, said nothing. I have no problem. We welcome openly criticism. We welcome open dialogue. But you have to do that letting the people know who you are. If you're a political commentator, you're a political commentator. In my opinion, the APA has no shape, form of being apolitical. They have consistently represented political interests and took political side. That's my humble opinion. Today, I was in communities across the country. They are creating, because leaders come to me, and they're telling me they're creating organizations under the name of different entities, business entities, and so on. And those organizations are writing your Toshaos and your village council to dictate to them what they can do and can't do. You are the elected representative of your region, and you are not subject to any of them. Don't be fooled. As I said, I love them. But if I love you, tell me who you are. You can't tell me that you're apolitical when all your action is aimed at political support to one entity. Don't insult our intelligence. So I close by saying to you, we welcome openly freedom of speech, democracy, but we also want you to know. All the good books tell us we must know the messenger and understand the message. I have a special announcement. Under the APNU AFC, they gave a transport in record time at the lowest price in the history of the country for the highest asset, the most valuable asset we had during the 5 months. Today, I am pleased. Where is the Toshao from 𝐸𝐸? Who else is here from 𝐸𝐸? Yeah, the whole district, the whole district. Y'all stand up. How are we this morning? Put on the mic to show. I like hear your voice, man. You forget? Y'all sprained my ankle in 𝐸𝐸? Good?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm feeling okay.
What's the most important thing for your district? Now,
Our land title or demarcation.
and when was the survey completed?
The survey, Your Excellency, was complete sometime last month by a surveyor and his team that were there.
All of us the same thing? And when did they say you'll get the when you're getting the title?
Well, we were told that there will be within a short period of time upon their return to Georgetown.
And that's your biggest issue. Well, I am pleased to tell you that your plan was registered this morning. Your minister issued a letter this morning, and I have your title in my hands. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And on that note, we will continue, you may have your seats. We will continue with that symbolic moment of handing over the absolute grants and certificate of title. Of course, this is in keeping with ensuring that Amerindians secure their land and their natural resources for sustained economic and social development. So I'll now invite the following Toshaos to come forward. Toshaos Carson Thomas, Toshao Reynold Hudson, Desmond James, David Wilson, Manuel Charlie, and James George, as we prepare for the presentation of the absolute grants first, and then the certificate of title. So after that very fired up, exceeding 1 hour presentation to the NTC, we'll ask.
Is that true? You told me half hour.
Just over an hour, Your Excellency. We'll invite you, please, to make the presentation. Firstly, to Toshao Carlson Thomas. This is the extension of 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 in Region 1, and this is the absolute grant from the Amerindian Land Titling Project in the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs. 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 extension is 3,764 acres, and Toshao Carlson Thomas will now step forward for that presentation as he receives the absolute grant for the 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 extension. Next, we invite Toshao Reynold Hudson. This is the absolute grant for the extension of 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 in Region 1, 8,887 acres. Toshao Reynold Hudson receiving the absolute grant from His Excellency, and Minister Pauline Sukai is also present for the presentation. You can turn the mic, the other mic, perhaps at the podium.
I just want to acknowledge that these grants and so on comes with a lot of hard work. The surveying is not an easy task. Very, 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 very dreadful task in some cases. I want to thank Moniz and his team at Lands Survey, all the surveyors, and the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, the community, the Toshaos, and all those who work with us to get this done. This is tremendous hard work, and we are very grateful and thank you. And I want to acknowledge your work.
Thank you, President Ali. On we go with the presentation. May I invite Toshao Desmond James now to come forward to receive the Red Hill extension. This is totaling 18,912 acres. We continue with Toshao David Wilson now for the 𝐴𝐾𝐻𝐻 extension, 𝐴𝐾𝐻𝐻𝐻 in Region 2. Toshao David Wilson. The 𝐴𝐾𝐻𝐻𝐻 extension is 5,088 acres. And the final presentation of the absolute grant for, may I invite Toshao James George. This is the absolute grant for 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 extension in Region 9, 1,472 acres. As President mentioned, we acknowledge all who were involved in the extension process. Thank you, Toshaos. And now for the certificate of title, Toshao Manuel Charlie. We invite you forward, and as President was explaining, this was also a very thorough and detailed and long time coming certificate of title for Arao in region number 7. Here is Toshao Manuel Charlie receiving the certificate of title. So congratulations, Toshaos. And the formal presentation to the Toshao of Karasabai. Oh, and the entire representation from the district. So can all of the leaders come forward from the Karasabai district? This is, as we heard, another significant moment for you, for your district, for the region, and for all of us, all of you in leadership in the room, marking another significant moment. Toshao Albert and the other Toshaos from the district receiving now the land title Karasabai, region number 9. Thank you very much, Toshaos. We will do the formal photos after with all of you and your absolute grants and your titles. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Minister. And we're almost at the end of the opening ceremony. We're in the lunch hour, but just before we head to lunch, we will now invite the Vice Chair of the NTC, Toshao Sonia Lachman, for the vote of thanks.
His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honorable Minister of Amerindian Affairs, Minister Pauline Sukai, and other members of Cabinet, members of the Diplomatic Corps, NTC executive members, MDOs, CDOs, distinguished Toshaos, representatives of various agencies, esteemed guests, and all participants at today's National Toshaos Council Conference. A pleasant day to you all. As we come to the close of this opening session of our conference, it is my privilege to extend our heartfelt thanks to all those who have made this morning's activity a success. First and foremost, I wish to express our deep appreciation to His Excellency for gracing us with his presence. Your presence here today reaffirms your commitment to us as Amerindians and to our theme which states Astute Leadership for Amerindian Development. We are grateful for your inspiring words and your clear vision to us as Indigenous peoples. Honorable Minister Pauline Sukai, thank you for your continued support and leadership. Your dedication to the progress of our Indigenous communities is evident in every initiative and policy that your ministry undertakes. To our distinguished Toshaos, you have traveled from near and far to be with us today. I extend a special thank you. Your unwavering commitment to the development of your villages, your wisdom, and your leadership are the cornerstone of our community's progress. The discussions and ideas that will emerge from this conference will undoubtedly pave the way for sustainable development and prosperity within our villages. Your active participation is crucial, and we thank you for your dedication to this cause. A sincere thank you to all the representatives from our diplomatic corps and others from various government agencies and organizations, not forgetting our esteemed guests, our NTC staff, and the media. Your collaborative spirit and willingness to engage with our communities are essential in forging the partnership that will drive meaningful change. I would also like to thank all the organizers, volunteers, and everyone who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the success of this opening session. As we move forward with the rest of the conference, may we be guided by our principles of astute leadership, and may our discussions be fruitful and lead to tangible outcomes that will benefit all our communities. Thank you all, and may this conference be a resounding success. And I will leave with you the words of His Excellency. Today, we are not dreaming, but we are doing. Thank you.
Thanks again, Tushao Sonia Lachman. One more bit of business before lunch. I now invite Mr. Sidney Allicock from Linden. He's got a presentation that he'd like to make now to His Excellency. So may I invite Mr. Sidney Allicock forward with that presentation. So, proudly depicting our indigenous emblems as well as the national animal, the jaguar, powerful, a representative of the leader who will be wearing this shirt. We will not ask that you wear it now, but you'll have many occasions that you can wear it. And after that fiery speech for over an hour, the headdress stayed firm on his head. We'd like to acknowledge former Toshao of Massaconnery, Paul Chakima. He's not feeling well, but he was the creator of that headdress worn by His Excellency. And we'd like to thank Mr. Sidney Allicock from Linden for the presentation of that shirt. And
Sidney is my brother, but I want to say to all of Guyana that they do some of the finest work. Whether you're joining us online or joining us locally, I'll ask Sidney to give you their number. You can order in any quantity and they will get it to you. Sidney, give them your number.
633-7630.
now this is
633-7630.
633-7630. And I heard a little birdie told me that they'll be designing the social shirt for the Amazon warriors.
all right. Well, local content at its best, showcasing our indigenous genius, our indigenous creativity. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of the opening ceremony. We will now have the formal photographs requested by the ministry. You will tell us firstly Okay, so we want to do this by regions. We'll ask all of the Toshaos, senior councillors, CDC chairs, you know yourselves, to assemble so that we can do this as efficiently as we can. And then we have to do the photos with those who just received their absolute grants and the certificates of title. On behalf of everyone who's been tuned in online, good to have your active participation in all that has happened today, and those of you in the dorm and in other parts of the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Thank you for being part of the opening ceremony of the NTC, starting today, going until the 23rd of August, under the theme Astute Leadership for Amerindian Development. And so we begin with region. So we'll go by regions, please. Regions 1, 2, and we'll go in that order, so you know yourselves. So can we begin assembling to the very front so we can have the formal photos of the entire delegation from each region. For the rest of us in the room, we can use the opportunity and say hello to each other, to catch up, take some selfies. Region 1, we're waiting for you to the very front. Could you please come as quickly as you can? Region 1, you're quite a big delegation, so we'll need you. And the big delegations, perhaps we can have those of you first, and then the smaller from regions 3, 4, and 5, and 6, you will go last. So the big delegations, so you can stand and assemble yourselves by delegation, by region.
You got my message about GGMC, right?
About the 25th, yes. They're so disappointed, but same thing. Oh, correct. Good, good.
Subregions, we have representatives from the various subregions.
Do it in sub-region.
Could we do the Morocco sub-region first? So everybody else just stand aside and wait for me, please.
So please note the big regions, we will go up via sub-regions. You know yourselves, so assemble in that order. Thanks, Maruka sub-region. Next, we'll go to Matakai. Matakai sub-region. Mabaruma sub-region. You were closer, I think. Mabaruma sub-region. So Region 2, can you come onto the floor to assemble? Leaders from Region 2, we are still in Region 1 doing the photos, but the Region 2 leaders, you can start coming closer so that we can assemble you. Finally, Matakai. Not many, and we have 9 leaders total for Region 2, so you will go all together. 7, you will come up next, please, to the floor to begin assembling yourselves. Yes, you can go closer there. Go ahead. So Region 2, just step a little closer. So Region 7, the big delegation from Region 7 can come next. So we can quickly move. So the leaders from the coastal regions, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll take you together. 7 is going next, all right? So just all the coastal regions will go together. All right, so President, he has a commitment, so we really have to move this as quickly as we can, colleagues. So Region 7 now, followed by Region 8, 9, and then the coastal regions together. So 7, 8, can you come up immediately after 7? Region 9, you are also a big delegation. So let's see the numbers. So we'll know whether we have to go by sub-districts or we can take you together. So let's see the 9 contingent. Okay. We'll have to do it via sub-districts for Region 9. North? This is 7 now? 7 is on now? Good. 8?
Yeah.
Toshaos, senior councillors, CDC chairs, I'll just ask that you please move with alacrity, please. President has a commitment that's waiting on him. You have adequate time during this week to meet with him. If you do have to speak with him, which I'm sure you do, he promises to be back. So we're just doing the photos now. So once you finish the photos, you can just either take your seats or you can take your leave so we can see who are the remaining participants for photos. Now we'll take the sub-districts for Region 9, beginning with North. South Pacaramas, come closer, please, so that you'll just move immediately after North leaves. South Pacaramas, you'll go next, so go closer to the next podium. Next, let's go, South Pacaramas. Central, we'll ask that you come closer to go after them. Central is next. Central, any of the other Central Toshaos, this is your photo op. South, just go a little closer, please. We see you. Go a little closer to the podium, the next podium. South, you move up now. So the coastal Toshaos, you can move up a little closer to allow Region 10 to come down. So coastal Toshaos, you will go after Region 9. No, we have two more sets. We'll take the Toshaos from 3, 4, 5, 6. Toshaos senior counselors. There is a purple phone, one of the Toshaos. I don't know if I was given it. Please secure the phone from me. And the final set will be the Region 10 Toshaos. Can you come down, please? The Toshaos with the absolute grants and the titles. Have they left the room? And our final set of Toshaos and senior counselors. I think that will be it, Mr. President. Thank you, Minister, NTC Chair.
I believe we have significantly made quite a lot of intervention that has today seen economy and village development and people's livelihood and welfare. Quite a lot of intervention that has today seen the village economy and village development and people's livelihood and welfare being more visible.
Amerindian Development, fostering traditions of sustainable growth. The government invested 15% of the revenues it received from Guyana's forest carbon credit sales in the hinterland communities. So far this year, $2.7 billion was invested in Amerindian and riverine communities.
I would also like to thank
Thank you for staying with us for the course of this broadcast for the opening ceremony of the National Toshaos Council Conference, which is happening here at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. It is going to be ongoing for the rest of this week. So we invite you to stay tuned right here on the National Communications Network and the Department of Public Information as we provide you with daily updates. We will be having a series of conversations with Toshaos and residents in various hinterland communities to talk about the development that is unfolding in their respective areas. President Ali spoke extensively on some of the efforts that have been benefiting indigenous communities and some of the plans as well to further enhance development in those communities and also ensuring that it is an equal opportunity for all indigenous people to benefit. I was your host, Travis Bruce. I was joined earlier by Deborah Francis as we gave context of what is happening here today. And of course, we will continue to provide you with updates. So wherever you are seeing this or hearing this, we invite you to stay tuned for more to come as we provide coverage for the National Toshaos Council Conference 2024.